Mike Ashley did always say that he wouldn't sell unless it was the right person to sell to. Probably for the money rather than the fact that we now are owned by Saudi Arabian state, apparently, or fully. Who knows? Who knows where we are on that one? But Mike Ashley did say he would sell to make sure that Newcastle were safe and future-proof. They could compete. So, how much of that you believe? How much of that you think did he want to, or did he just see the money? He's ended up selling us to the most. I can't believe how he's managed to do it. It's like it was almost like he saw it as a parting gift. It's certainly not going to get him off the hook any less. We still hate what happened because, as is proving now, if you put a little bit of money into the team or just go for the right players and install a good manager, then look what could happen. It's like, well, Mike, what do you want? Do you want to just make money? Because we could do well. Why didn't you invest in the team straight after we got into Europe? Why didn't you try harder with that? Did you ever enjoy this? Was there any bit?
Because that's the thing, is I'm kind of like, he's ruthless, isn't he? He's clearly a ruthless businessman. So that kind of puts away the idea of being incompetent, which then makes it even uglier.
Business-wise, he was probably fantastic and a dream for what you want for balancing the books, and it's helped us out a lot with the initial transfer funds, all about this FFP and everything. And I think that really we left with a clean slate. So brilliant on that front. Just why couldn't we have balanced it out better with the football? And
so that ugly... Well, look, I think you've got to be careful with spending money, because you look at Everton. We did a great podcast with Baz from Toffee TV talking about the money that they spent and how woeful it was. And you can spend too much and get it wrong, and then you're nowhere. But
Chelsea as well now. Throwing it at the wall, see what sticks.
But weirdly, that strangling of money going out, at least, was that sort of the biggest positive that he left, and it meant that. Do you think you were chosen based on that fact more so than anything else?
No, I think that Amanda Staveley already had like a bit of a connection to the Northeast. Okay, it was North Yorkshire, but she was aware of it, and I think her dad was a fan of Newcastle. I can't remember now. The theme park owner, which I love. I used to go to that theme park, and now it's like really? Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's closed now, but still, it was just like school trips, and then all of a sudden, this woman owns your club. But yeah, I think that Newcastle were there for the taking with any big takeover. If it hadn't have been this one, there might have been another one. We just now happen to have the most wealthy one, which is a lovely thing to have, even if it means that there's a big question mark over it completely forever now. Man City are dealing with it, though. We're going to have to try and sail through those stormy waters, which is fine to sail through, because there's no getting away from that and how football is. But Man United fans might have to deal with the same dilemmas in a few weeks after maybe condemning ours, and then it's different when you're in the room, as you say.
It's amazing.
It's weird. And I did interviews on the day of the takeover, and it was like, what do you think of this? And I'm like,
well, that's my next question.
We've got Matt Ritchie at left back, please.
Yeah,
take my money.
I want to ask you about that. But one thing I will say is that I think, in terms of an appetising club to get involved with, I can't think of a better one. Man Stevens has said in the past that they tried to purchase Liverpool, and I kind of get that. And obviously, maybe for some similar kind of romantic reasons, because there is that. They
wanted rich history. They wanted rich history, and almost I think that the one thing that I think Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad Gudisi, her husband, have been very good at, and they did this last year when they were very much the front of the face of it. They tapped into the nostalgia, they tapped into the sentimentality. They almost became bigger fans than anyone who was going to come in was going to be. They embraced everything. They'd turn up to every game, whether it was like an under-21s or the women's team, who've already had a massive resurgence because Amanda Staveley wanted that. They tapped into every little bit to say, right, we're going to be there. Are you going to be there? Because if you are, and we're there, and then Eddie Howe's here as well, we're going to do this together. And that is the biggest shift. It's the strength between every single aspect of the club now is working in the same direction. They're pulling together. Whereas, with Everton, they might have passion on the pitch like they did last season. They might have, when Lampard was there, him flying the flag, being like, we can do this, but everyone knows that the owner's not doing that. Whereas now everyone knows the same thing. And that's what was so different with Mike Ashley. He was the one cog, if you like, that wasn't pulling in the same way, just so happened to be the biggest one.
I think that's a really difficult thing, is that there isn't any other word. There's no word between connection and sports washing. Like there is this that hot word is right there, right? And you're, again, depending on your preference on it, is understandably, to a point, you could suggest that we're being naive if you allow for those redeeming features to be acknowledged because of where the money comes from.
Yeah.
And the legal assurances when the takeover occurred, again, all of this is, you never know how murky or not murky it is, but it says, legally binding assurances that the Saudi state would not control the football club. And
for me, it's how the questions were laid out at the fans' doorsteps. The takeover process, it started April 2020 and it took until October 2021. That's how long Newcastle were kind of sitting on this. And we were exhausted. It took many things of people backtracking and saying, oh, this, that, and the other. But then when it happened so quickly. You didn't even have a minute to stop for breath. And then all of a sudden it was like, so did Newcastle support this regime? And it's like, well, no, obviously not. I don't, but neither am I an expert on these things. Yes, of course, it's absolutely atrocious, the stuff that happens. And, just because I'm suddenly wearing a black and white shirt, a team that I've supported all my life, it doesn't mean that I am, wearing, forgive and forget on my top. It's just, I was thinking, right, this is the future of my club. We're going to have some questions here, but we can definitely answer them. The bit that doesn't sit well with me is, don't bring a Saudi flag to the game. It's just dim. It's just a stupid thing to do. It's like, don't give them an easy target for us to be like, oh, look at all these. And lo and behold, it happened at the cup final. There was Saudi flags there. And it's like, okay, right. Okay. Don't turn up in headdresses. Right. Okay. Oh, prominent people who like to talk about Newcastle are suddenly wearing it. It's like, guys, can we not? And then all of a sudden, you see like news stories and it's like, oh, stop attacking Newcastle fans. And it's like, oh, executions happening here. And it's like, why are Newcastle fans in the replies of that defending it, saying stop attacking Newcastle fans? No one is attacking you. And there's your sports washing in action. I was asked, would I turn my back on the club? So many people who have a problem with the people who own us were doing that. But I'm still not turning my back on the club, but I'm certainly not going to, bend over and start twerking for a regime, because that's not happening. That ain't what I do.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, the fence that a lot of people are quite happy with at the moment.
It's where to connect and where to disconnect, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think that's a really difficult thing because it is sport and you are a club. And so that's why I think the sort of the mix between business and sport and, again, a club and people who don't have a choice. Because that's the thing, isn't it? That is the difference.
I challenge anyone, and there's even just a small handful of Newcastle fans, I challenge anyone who was presented with that opportunity to never go and watch your club again, never enjoy a cup final again. Money at the moment is what makes sport, and unless you want a full change, it's not going to happen in this country, because there's just too much intertwined. The government getting involved, the fact that there's a relationship with Saudi Arabia there, the fact that holidays to Dubai all the time,
doesn't it? It's
exactly.
amazing.
And you just think about it and go, how can you possibly remove yourself from this without turning your back on football altogether?
Yes, I agree. And I think that's what I will bang this drum to the end, is that it's down to, you can have as much money as you want, but if you can only spend so much and truly only spend so much, then it will keep us all together a little bit. And there's already a broader problem there with, this is the other thing, like the idea of a country or of a league. Like, the problem we've got now is that, say that the top 6, 7, that's essentially, if you imagine the Premier League, when you look at La Liga and all the other leagues, they're the top 6 of that. So, can that be brought down a little bit? Maybe not. But then within the league, again, it needs to happen. And this is the problem, that the mix between sport and business, when money is involved and you need to keep making money and you want to keep making money, that's when people start to control stuff.
See FIFA. It's like top of the game is corrupt from it. Everywhere down from there is still corrupt. You've got a World Cup in Qatar. There's a high chance that Saudi Arabia will put a bid in for a World Cup, and they will get that because
football
is desperate for it, and it's just like, what can we do? What can we do?
So the question I'm going to ask you, which we will be answered after the break that's about to come up, is: are you enjoying the way that Newcastle are putting this all together? Because they do have all the money, but they haven't spent it all yet.